Near the end of the first quarter, it's Auburn's ball on the Chattanooga 39-yard line. 1st and 10 as the Tiger attack swings into high gear. Brian Harvard, a sophomore from Thomasville, Georgia, fades for a pass that is good to Lamar Rawson at the Chattanooga 8-yard line. On the next play, it's the famous rollout play, and here he goes. Quarterback Harvard keeping the ball and goes over for the first touchdown of the afternoon. The next score was a more dramatic one. Johnny Green of Chattanooga's in punt formation. Zeke Smith blocks the kick, and Red Phillips recovers in the end zone for a touchdown. This time, the extra point was good, and it's 13-0. Still in the second quarter, Johnny Kern has directed the team to the Chattanooga 13-yard line, relying mainly on a ground game. And here goes Johnny Kern on a third down with a rollout play over for the third score. A well-placed kick makes it Auburn 20, Chattanooga nothing. But the scrappy Moccasins were not calling it quits. Shortly after the start, making up for that, it's the draw play straight up the center and 34 yards for another Auburn score. A missed extra point, and the score was Auburn 40 and Chattanooga 7. And that, for all practical purposes, was the ball game. The Auburn second and third teams had been tried and found not wanting. Boys like Jimmy Laster, incomplete to Jimmy Reese. And then comes the final play of the ball game as Eddie Jackson gets a low pass from center and has to run. He's hit at the Nooga 32, the whistle blows, and the Auburn coaching staff scratches 2 games from the season. And already the Auburn defense is beginning to attract notice from all over the country. But still, the Auburn defense had not been tested as it would be in the upcoming game with the Colonels of Kentucky, and here we are. It wasn't long in coming. Early in the first quarter, Tommy Lorino rams into center. Here he goes. And he's met there by Kentucky's All-American tackle Lou Michaels and drops for a no gain. It's 4th down and 8 and punt formation. Billy Atkins is back. He gets his pass from center, gets his kick away, and it's taken in by Jack Gallagher at the Kentucky 26. And he returns it to the Wildcat 42, a good place to start an offensive drive. Bobby Cravens gets it and tries left tackle, but Captain Tim Baker brings him down after a gain of 4 yards. 2nd down on the Kentucky 45, and Cliff Tribble, the fullback, tries again and moves for another 4 yards to the 49. 3rd and about 3, and Bobby Cravens goes off left guard for 3 yards to the Auburn 48. Again, Zeke Smith is in with a tackle. 4th and 1, and punt formation for Kentucky. And here you see the kind of play that stood Auburn in good stead throughout the entire season. Lou Michaels, rush, has to run with the ball and is brought down by Jerry Wilson at midfield. And then the game seesaws back and forth, with neither team able to operate or generate a serious scoring threat. Near the end of the first half, the Tigers make motions of a score as Lou Michaels kicks. It's taken by Tommy Lorino, and he brings it back to the Auburn 33-yard line. It's 1st and 10 for the Plainsmen, and they feel the urgent need of a score. Lloyd Nix is back for a pass. The long throw is good to Red Phillips on the Kentucky 37-yard line. A nice pass play has put the Tigers in good position, but the Kentucky line begins to tighten as Tommy Lorino fails to gain. Lloyd Nix sets the team, fades back for another pass. In trouble and is trapped and brought down by Jimmy John. 2 more incomplete passes, and the scoring threat is ended. And so is the first half, with a score, Auburn nothing and Kentucky nothing. The second half begins as a fired-up Auburn team jars the ball loose from Lowell Hughes, and Billy Atkins is in there to recover at the Kentucky 36. Bobby Hoppy goes wide with this one and advances the ball to the Wildcat 30 before going out of bounds. A 6-yard gain for Auburn. 2nd and 4, and here's Tommy Lorino, who takes the pitch back. He goes the other way and gets the first down at the Kentucky 25-yard line. 1st and 10 for the Plainsmen. Lloyd Nix back for a pass. Is caught by Lou Michaels and dropped for a 2-yard loss back to the Kentucky 27. It's 2nd down and 14. Tommy Lorino again, this time to the right side. Fakes a pass and picks up 4 precious yards to the 23-yard line. A 15-yard penalty against Kentucky puts the ball on the 8-yard line, gives the Tigers a first down, and Billy Atkins wouldn't quit and went over for the TD. Auburn leads 6-0. The extra point is no good, and that's the way the score stands. The rest of the half was pretty much more of the same, a tight, conservative ball game, with Auburn hanging on to those 6 points for dear life. Here, near the end of the game, one of the 14 kicks that highlighted the game, Ronnie Robbs booted for Auburn. John Gallagher took it on the Kentucky 40 and returned only 4 yards. Still trying for that last desperate score, the Wildcats take to the air. Lowell Hughes hits Jim Urbanik on the Auburn 32 for a 24-yard gain and a first down for the Kentucky Colonels. It's still another try by Hughes. This time, however, he fumbles, and an alert Jerry Wilson puts an end to that Kentucky threat by recovering for Auburn on the 43. One play into center, and the ball game is over. Auburn wins 6-0, and folks are saying you can't cut them much closer than that. But just wait. Here we are with a rivalry to end all rivalries at Grant Field, Atlanta, Georgia. Auburn versus Georgia Tech, and what a ball game right from the very start. Here it is, early in the first quarter, Georgia Tech in light jerseys in possession. The long count, and Fred Brazelton makes 1 yard to the Tech 42-yard line and gets a taste of that Auburn defense. Next, Stan Flowers moves up to the 45-yard line and still finds the going tough to get those 3 yards. And so Fred Brazelton, number 11, is back for a pass, but instead feels the ire of the Auburn line as Jackie Burkett and Red Phillips hit him for an 11-yard loss back to the Georgia Tech 34. 3 downs and a net loss of 6 yards convinces the Engineers to kick, and Jerry Neighbors is standing back to do just that. Gets it away, but almost blocked. Taken in by Tommy Larino at the Auburn 12-yard line. Tries to reverse his field, but doesn't find the hole, and is brought down at the Auburn 18. So now the Tigers have a series of offensive opportunities. Tommy Larino fumbles, but Tim Baker is in there to recover and picks up 3 yards in the process. 2nd down and 7. Lloyd Nix spots Tommy Larino at the Auburn 22, and the 11-yard pass is good. Good for a first down, and the Auburn drive is still alive. Bobby Hoppy runs the ball, moves out to the 42 for a 9-yard gain, and the offense is clipping along at a good pace. Billy Atkins crosses the midfield stripe and gains 15 yards to the Tech 44. But here the drive fails, and the ball goes over to Georgia Tech on down. Another drive is generated near the end of the first quarter, and here at the start of the second period, the Tigers still have the ball, 2nd down on the Tech 12-yard line. Billy Atkins just made 2 more yards, so it's 3rd down now. Bobby Hoppy, he's caught and brought down back at the Georgia Tech 14-yard line. 4th down, no score, a tough decision, but the Plainsmen elect to try for the field goal. Billy Atkins will kick, and it's good. And this night, Billy Atkins could own the town as Auburn leads Georgia Tech 3-0. Here we are at the start of the fourth quarter. The Auburn team found themselves in hot water as Georgia Tech had the ball on the Auburn 14-yard line. Fred Brazelton back to pass. There's a fumble, and Jimmy Phillips recovers. So the alert play of the Auburn team on the defense has staved off a possible score by Georgia Tech. Lloyd Nix tries to mount an offensive show as he makes 3 up to the Auburn 17. It's 2nd down, 7 yards to go for the Tigers. Billy Atkins is held to a 1-yard gain, and the story of the game is repeated. Bad weather has held the scoring to a minimum, but it leans little to the happy Auburn fans who feel that they have really wrecked Tech. The final score, Auburn 3, Georgia Tech nothing. And next, the big state of Texas makes welcome the nationally ranked Auburn Tigers as the War Eagles play their only night game of the season against the Cougars of Houston. Billy Atkins kicked off. It was taken by Jerry Bice at the Houston 6. It's 1st and 10 for the Cougars. Don Brown, off right tackle, moves for 6 yards to the Houston 28. It's 2nd down, and on this trip, Harold Lewis tries the inside. He gains 2 yards and found that the going was pretty tough. 3rd down, and Don Brown is held to a 1-yard gain. It's 4th down now, and the Houston Cougars are forced to punt. And it rolls dead on the Auburn 29-yard line. And now the Tigers' day has come. On the first play from scrimmage, the roof falls in on Houston. Lloyd Nix back for a pass. It's good to Red Phillips in Houston territory after a nice fake, and he's off and running for Auburn's first score. The kick is good, and Auburn leads 7-0. Only a few minutes later, Houston finds themselves deep in their own territory thanks to a bad kick and an advancing Auburn offense. Here, Don McDonald makes 1 yard out to the 4-yard line. On the third down, Houston elects to try for more operating room. Don McDonald attempts a handoff, and Jerry Wilson is in there to knock him into the end zone for a safety, so Auburn's lead goes to 9-0. Then on the first play after the kickoff, Pat Marr goes off right tackle for 3 yards, moving the ball to the Houston 35. Second down, they're in Houston territory. And Brian Harvard runs the favorite pass option play, and look at him run it. He goes all the way, 35 yards for another Auburn touchdown. The kick is good, and Auburn leads 16-0. Here's the kind of play that kept Houston off its feet all night. First play in the second quarter, Don McDonald back to pass, and Red Phillips is on him and brings him down on the Auburn 49 for a 17-yard loss. A few plays later, Harold Lewis is hit hard on the Houston 6. He fumbles, and Red Phillips recovers for Auburn. Another scoring opportunity set up by the Auburn defense. Bobby Hoppy turns the trick as he goes around left end into the end zone, and Auburn leads 22-0. The big thrill for the Houston fans came late in the second period when the Auburn offense was going pretty well. Tommy Larino around right end for 19 yards to the Houston 14. Then on the next play, Lloyd Nix in there at quarterback calls the signals, gets the snap, and fades for a pass. It's away, but intercepted by Paul Sweeten at the Houston 11-yard line, and he makes the longest return with an intercepted pass in Houston's history. The Cougars have ended the scoring column for 7 points. It's Auburn 22, Houston 7. Another Auburn marker in the third quarter ran the count to Auburn 28, Houston 7. Here's the beginning of the fourth period. Auburn on the Houston 23-yard line. Lamar Rawson off through left tackle for 23 yards and the score. Houston with the ball now. Auburn was not through scoring by a long shot. 2 more scores, and the second and third strings ran the final total to Auburn 48, Houston 7. Homecoming Day and all the color that is traditionally associated with that occasion at the loveliest village on the plains. Add to that a real gridiron battle with the University of Florida, and the rugged first quarter is the kind of game you'll see all afternoon. Here, Lamar Rawson carried the ball to the Florida 43-yard line for a 7-yard gain. And there he goes. And on the next play, Ronnie Robbs gets the call, goes through center, and finds that Coach Bobby Woodruff's Gators are hard to move. That play carries to the Florida 49, an 8-yard gain. So Brian Harvard, the fine sophomore quarterback, takes to the air, but his pass to Rawson is no good, and the deadlock continued into the second quarter. After a Florida punt goes out on the Auburn 21, Bobby Hoppy goes over left tackle, and the stout Auburn line makes way for the Chattanooga Flash to move 12 yards to the Auburn 33. On the heels of that first down, Tommy Larino goes right up the middle across the midfield stripe and to the Florida 47-yard line for a 20-yard gain. But this Auburn drive ends at the Florida 2-yard line as the Gators hold. Bobby Hoppy makes the desperation try on a fourth down, but he's short. So the Gators take over and go immediately into punt formation. Jimmy Ryan is back to kick. His punt is short and is taken by Pat Marr at the 50. And Pat brings it back to the Florida 37, so the Tigers are in good scoring position again. But this time, the going is just as rough as before, and this drive, too, stops short. And the Tigers are forced to kick. Ronnie Robbs is back. And here is a big break for Auburn. Billy Booker elects to run it back and is hit at the Florida 7-yard line by the alert Auburn defense headed by Dan Presley. After 3 losing downs, Florida kicks dead on their own 26-yard line, and once again, the Tigers are on the offensive, deep in Gator territory. Billy Atkins' gain on that last play nullified by a penalty. But on this one, Bobby Hoppe moves well on the double reverse and is not stopped until he reaches the Florida 5-yard line. And this time, the Auburn Tigers will not be denied as Billy Atkins bowls over left tackle for the score. The kick is blocked, so the half ends with the score Auburn 6, Florida nothing. The second Auburn touchdown is not long in coming. Early in the third quarter, Auburn on their own 39-yard line when Lloyd Nix passes to Red Phillips. But this one is no good. That makes it second down, still 10 yards to go. Lloyd Nix with the option, but he's caught from behind and down on the Tiger 37. Then comes the kind of lightning that ignites the fans. Lloyd Nix back for a pass. It's good to Red Phillips at the Florida 40-yard line, and the Ellick City All-American takes off for the touchdown. A 63-yard pass play, Lloyd Nix to Red Phillips. The PAT was good, and the score was Auburn 13, Florida nothing. While there were no more scores in this game, there was more outstanding play, like this one in the fourth quarter. And here we are with the next game. It's the Mississippi State Maroons next on the agenda. Auburn in the white jerseys on this one. Brian Harvard makes about 4 yards to the Auburn 32-yard line. Pat Marr over left guard, but the Maroon defense arches its back and holds him to a 2-yard gain. Ronnie Robbs, the fullback from Chattanooga, goes into the center and picks up about 2 yards, so the Tigers are forced to kick. It was this type of seesaw game that was characteristic of the first quarter. In the middle of the second quarter, a situation developed which the Tigers were to face only once during the entire season. 1st and 10, and Miller moves to the Maroon 39-yard line, so that'll make it second down and 8 yards to go. Mississippi State in the dark jerseys with the ball. Daniel hits the right side and carries to the 43-yard line. It's 3rd down and 4, and then it happens. A nice fake. Miller back for a pass. It's good to Brooks, and he goes all the way for a touchdown. The extra point is good, so the Tigers trail for the only time this year. The half ends that way with the Tigers. They're back against the wall. State kicked off to start the second half, and the Tigers never gave up until they scored. Here Lloyd Nix goes into right tackle and moves 6 yards to the State 27-yard line. Tommy Larino is next, and the left half runs wide, going to the 4-yard line for a 23-yard gain and a perfect setup for a touchdown. Billy Atkins from his fullback position hammers to the 2-yard line. Then it's Atkins again, and this time he's over, but the Tigers still trail by 1 point. Here's the kick where the pressure was really on. Billy Atkins to boot, and it's good. It's a new ball game. Here at the beginning of the fourth quarter, Auburn has worked the ball to the State 20-yard line, but the drive bogs down there, and Billy Atkins attempts a field goal. It's no good, but Bill Stacy for State elects to run the ball back, and he's hit at the Maroon 10-yard line. From here, a couple of losses and 2 big penalties push State back to their 7. Bill Stacy with the ball. A pass back, and a recovery on the 1-yard line. Naturally, it's punt formation, and Shinrock is back to kick. Standing deep in his own end zone, John Watley is on him and brings him down for the safety as Auburn leads 9-7. The Tigers have proved their mettle and are back in the lead once again. The final Auburn score is set up by alert defensive play. Billy Atkins is kicking. It's fumbled by Morgan of Mississippi State, and Zeke Smith recovers for Auburn, and the Tigers are in possession at the Maroon 10-yard line. Billy Atkins into right tackle, moves to the 5-yard line before being stopped. Tommy Larino off the left side picks up more yardage to the 3-yard line. And this is the big one. Billy Atkins is over for the score. The extra point is no good, but Auburn leads 15-7, and that's the way the game ends. To Columbus, Georgia for the next game and another rainy day and a wet field. And this is Theron Sapp into the center, a fullback who was to make his presence known throughout the afternoon. And here's another fine Georgia back, Jimmy Orr, one of the conference's leading pass receivers. The first quarter was a ground game almost entirely. Auburn remained in possession with Lamar Rawson, who you see here doing much of the work. Ronnie Robbs was also prominent during this sustained drive, which went as far as the Georgia 7-yard line before a penalty and a couple of losses stopped the Plainsmen. The Auburn drive for pay dirt started midway of the second quarter when Jimmy Orr dropped back to kick for Georgia. He was kicking from the 25, and it went out of bounds on the Auburn 47. A good break for the visitors. Brian Harvard is running the team. He keeps, and here he gets 1 yard up to the 48. Then Jimmy Reynolds moves it down to the 46. And this type of game continues down to the Bulldogs' 30-yard line. The first unit comes back in the ball game. Lloyd Nix back for a pass. It's good to Billy Atkins on the Georgia 23-yard line. A 13-yard gain for the Tigers. A warm day in Columbus, Georgia. Bobby Hoppy off the left side to the 20. Then a Georgia penalty moves it to the 5-yard line, and the Tigers are in real scoring position. Billy Atkins fails to make much yardage. He got down to the 4-yard line, a gain of 1. Tommy Lorino, this time to the outside, and again there is no gain. Then Lloyd Nix, seeing that the line of the Georgia Bulldogs will not move, decides to take to the air. His pass to Red Phillips is good for the touchdown, and the Tigers lead 6-0. The extra point was missed, and that, for all practical purposes, was the ball game. However, the Tigers are put in a bad position early in the third quarter thanks to a penalty that moves them back to their own 7-yard line. Then on the third play from scrimmage, Tommy Lorino fumbled, and Georgia recovered at the Auburn 10-yard line. But the celebrated Auburn defense is more than just a publicity campaign, as this series of downs will show. Britt Tuor is no good, and 1 down is gone. Theron Sapp drives to the 6-yard line, and it's Georgia offside, moving the ball back to the Auburn 15, but still in dangerous territory. Britt back for another pass. And again, it's no good. It was intended for Jimmy Orr. And that's the way the drive ended, with Auburn turning back the threatening Bulldogs. Even after another fumble gave Georgia new life in the same series of downs and put them in possession on the Auburn 5, the defense holds as Zeke Smith recovers a Britt fumble, and the 6-point lead still stands. The Tigers mount another threat in the waning moments of the ball game. Here they're in possession on the Georgia 7-yard line. Billy Atkins fails to gain. Lloyd Nix back for a pass. It's good to Jerry Wilson, but he's dropped on the 1-yard line, and it's 4th down and goal to go. Lloyd Nix into the center, and a much-disputed play goes into the record books as a 1/2-yard gain and no TD. Final score, Auburn 6, Georgia nothing. Well, the following weekend it was a trip to beautiful Tallahassee, and the game was Florida State University. Auburn in white. The first time they got their hands on the ball, the Tigers started to roll. Like this Nix to Phillips pass, good for 16 yards to the FSU 27. Or this run by Tommy Lorino around right end for 9 yards to the 18. Later, in this same series of downs, Lloyd Nix gets the ball, is back for a pass. No good, intended for Jerry Wilson, but on this play, a holding penalty moves the ball to the Moccasin 1-yard line, and it's still 4th down for Auburn. Billy Atkins goes over, and the Tigers draw first blood. The kick is no good. The score is Auburn 6, Florida State nothing. A few plays later, it's another Auburn drive. Bryant Harvard rolling around right end keeps and goes 19 yards to the FSU 5-yard line. Then Eddie Jackson goes off the right side and makes 4 yards to the 1-yard line. Lamar Rawson goes over for the score. The extra point is good and makes it Auburn 13, Florida State nothing. Starting in the second quarter, Lloyd Nix is back for a pass. It's good to Bobby Hoppy, who races to the Florida State 11-yard line. So it's 1st and 10 for the Tigers. Tommy Lorino over the right side goes down to the 8-yard line. Billy Atkins off the left side goes for 2 more yards, so it's 3rd and 5. They're on the 6-yard line. Lloyd Nix on the keeper. He's caught and held to a gain of only 1 yard. But they try again, and this time Billy Atkins turns the trick, and he goes up the middle for the score. With the extra point, it's Auburn 20, Florida State nothing. The final Auburn touchdown is set up as Lamar Rawson intercepts a pass. Watch it. This is an odd pass formation, but one which was used frequently by Florida State. There's Rawson with the interception, and he returns it all the way to the Florida State 38-yard line. Later, during that same drive, it's 1st and 10 on the Florida State 15. Billy Atkins through the right side for 13 yards down to the State 2-yard line. And Tommy Lorino through the left side for 2 yards and a score. The extra point is good. It's Auburn 27, Florida State nothing. The lone Florida tally comes early in the 4th period. It's Majors back to pass. And it's good to Phillips, who goes over for the marker. Their kick is good, and it's Auburn 27, Florida State 7. The final points are made right at the end of the game. Majors back to pass. And he's dropped for a healthy 20-yard loss back to the Florida 10. Majors trying again. He picks up 6 yards with a pass to Pickers. And then, playing a desperation game, Majors back again, and this time he's brought down in the end zone by Bobby Watson and Red Phillips. And that's how the game ended, with a score Auburn 29, Florida State University 7. The final game of the season with the University of Alabama. National fame awaits the Auburn Tigers. Gary Osteen fumbles early in the Alabama game, and Zeke Smith recovers on the Bama 26. Auburn again in dark jerseys. Tommy Lorino around the right side. He gets loose and goes 25 yards all the way to the Bama 1-yard line. Billy Atkins into the center, but he's about a half-yard short of the marker. Now it's Atkins again, and he's over. The extra point is good, and the Tigers are off and running. 1 minute and 56 seconds from kickoff to score. 10 plays later, Lloyd Nix passes to Tommy Lorino at the Alabama 9, and they're knocking again. The final plunge goes over from the 6, and it's Billy Atkins who carries. Another good extra point, and it's 14-0. Another touchdown early in the second quarter makes it 21-0, and shortly after that, Bobby Smith goes back to pass, and Tommy Lorino picks off the pass on the Auburn 21 and races 79 yards for the touchdown. The Bessemer Flash is having a great day before the home folks. But he was not alone in his stellar performance. 11 plays later, Robert Skelton back for another pass, this one intercepted by Jackie Burkett, the fine sophomore center who set sail for the end zone and traveled 66 yards to run the score to 34-0. The final score came early in the third quarter. Auburn with the ball on the Alabama 11-yard line. Lloyd Nix back for a pass. It's good to Red Phillips. A beautiful catch by a great All-American. It's another score, and it's Auburn 40. National come to the Plains. And here are the highlights. This is Ted Smith, sports editor of the Associated Press, presenting the AP Trophy, symbolic of National Football. On hand to accept it, Ralph Jordan, the president, Dr. Ralph Drawn. There's no doubt about it. Here's the proof. #1 in the nation. Indeed, it has been a good year for all War Eagles.